Good morning, my dear students, class 5th. Today, we will be discussing about the English lesson Gulliver Arrives in Lilliput. So, one by one sentences, we will see the lesson. First, we will see that what lesson is about. The lesson is about the passage is about the adaptation of an excerpt from the famous novel Gulliver's Travels, written nearly 300 years by Jonathan Swift. Travel books were popular at that time, and this incredible story describes the strange and fantastic travels of Lemuel Gulliver to different lands. Okay, so see, my dear students, we will see line by line. I was the youngest of 5 brothers and had to leave school at the age of 17 because my father could not afford to pay my school fees. Here I means the author is saying himself that he was the youngest of 5 brothers and he had to leave the school at the age of 17. Why he had to leave the school? Because his father could not afford the school fees. So it was decided that I should take up the life of a seaman. His father decided that he should become a seaman. And so it was that I went aboard the Antelope. Now see, my dear students, here the meaning of aboard means on the ship or the boat. And Antelope is a name of that boat or ship. So which was sailing out of the South Seas. The ship set sail from Bristol in May 1700. During the beginning of the journey, we enjoyed good weather, but on our way to the East Indies, we were caught up in a great storm and choppy seas. Manning the ship with it moving up and down was hard work, and a dozen of our men died either because of the work overload or the poor rations that were doled out to us. Now see here, the author is saying that during the beginning of the journey, what happened? The weather. First, they have enjoyed the weather, but on their way, where they were? To the East Indies. What happened there? They were caught up in the great storm and choppy seas. And manning the ship, manning means operating. While operating the ship with it moving up and down, it was very hard work. And what happened? The dozen of men died. They have died. 12 persons have been died. Why? Either because of the work overload or the poor rations that were doled out. Blown off course by strong winds, we found ourselves somewhere north of Van Diemen's. Next morning, lashed by heavy rain, the Antelope struck rock and foundered. 6 of us crewmen managed to escape from the wreck in the lifeboat. So great was the force of the gale that the boat capsized. I had no idea what happened to the other 5, but I managed to survive. What does he say? That the other 5 persons were, what happened with them that he didn't know, and he managed himself to survive. As he floated on the water lashed by the wind and sea, he himself felt sure that he was going to die. His legs gave under him, and the way his great surprise, what happened? That he found that he could stand up in the water. He walked on and on before he got to dry land. And then some more, searching for the houses or someone who could help him. But suddenly he was completely exhausted and he collapsed on the short, soft grass. And what happened? He fell into a deep sleep. Now see what happens next. It was daylight when I woke up and found I could not move. Lying on my back, I discovered that my arms and legs were tied down to the ground with strings. My long hair was held down in same way, and thousands of strings crossed my body and held me to the ground. I could not move. So what he himself found, that when he woke up, and what he found, that he could not move, and lying on his neck, he found that his arms and legs were tied down with the strings. His long hair was held, what that the thousand of strings crossed on his body and held him on the ground. He could not move. Let us see what happened next. All I could do, lying on my back, was to look up to the sky. So he laid down on the ground. The warm, bright sunlight began to hurt my eyes, and at the same time, I could hear noises around me. Soon I felt something climb on my foot and start moving up my body. It came up near my face, turning my eyes downwards as far as I could see. I was amazed to see a tiny little man. He was not more than 6 inches tall and appeared to be dressed as a soldier. Then another 40 men like him climbed onto me and looked into my face. Surprised, I gave out a great scream, the little men, and ran off in fright. And as they jumped off my body, some of them were injured. Then one of the little men, braver than the rest, climbed back onto my body, and looking into my face, he threw up his arm and in a clear voice shouted something. Others took up his cry, but of course I could not understand what they meant. Now see, what did he observe there? He observed that the persons or the men were only what was their height? They were only about 6 inches tall, and one of them was appeared to be dressed as a soldier. Then what happened? Then another 40 men like him climbed on me and looked into my face. Other 40 men climbed on him and they were looking at his face. And what is the surprise? That I gave out a great scream. He shouted loudly. And what happened? The little man then ran off in fright. He frightened and he ran off. As they jumped off my body, some of them were injured. See, after straining very hard, I managed to tear open the string and free one arm. I also managed to raise my head, which gave me great pain as many of my hairs were torn off. I reached out to catch some of the little men, but they were too quick for me and ran off. Then I felt as if 1,000 needles were pricking on my hand, and discovered that the little men were shooting arrows at me. What did he surprise? That he found that he felt that the 1,000 needles were pricking on my hand. But in reality, what was? He realized that the little men were shooting arrows at him.